We've got, I'm your presenter and moderator today, Darko Atias, MD of True Altitude. We're a boutique corporate finance business specializing in e-commerce and supply chain technology. And without further ado, I'll hand over to some of our lovely speakers here. We've got Sebastian Potts, UK Country Manager for Urbit. We've got Adam Sage from The Times, esteemed journalist and commentator. And we have Amy McNamara from Boohoo. So welcome. Would you like to introduce yourselves?
Yeah, hi, I'm Sebastian from Urbit. Yes, as Darko said, Country Manager UK. Also make up the global leadership team that's based in Sweden. Urbit, if you're not aware, is a B Corp business that started about 7 years ago in Sweden. We're now based in France, UK and Sweden. Predominantly in France and the UK, and growing at a very fast rate, opening up Spain and Germany in the new year. As I said, we're a B Corp, so we're an ethical and sustainable business backed by the B Corp certification. If you guys don't know what that is, it basically is a accreditation that we get audited on to make sure that we are sustainable ethical, from everything from looking after employees to making sure we are a business for good. So we are profitable, we're not a charity, but we actually give back. So that's a bit in a very brief mode, and we'll obviously go into more detail as we talk. But again, my name's Sebastian from Urbit.
Hi everybody, so I'm Amy McNamara from Boohoo, Head of Operations, and I cover sort of end-to-end logistics within Boohoo's UK market. If anyone doesn't know Boohoo, we are a fashion e-commerce company, so pure play online. Excited to be here with Urbit today, talking about sustainable delivery options.
Okay, thanks, Amy. So we've got two experts here, three experts and one non-expert. I'm a journalist at the Times newspaper. I write about everything, not necessarily about logistics. I'm here to represent the consumer, the punter. So I want my goods now, I want them cheap, and I want them sustainable. And Amy and Sebastian are going to explain how I can get it, I hope. Do you want to start, Sebastian?
Well, actually, depend, Adam. So first thing is individual definitions of the last mile. Such a broad topic with different perceptions. So from a consumer perspective, what is the meaning of last mile as far as your readers go?
To me, the last mile for years and years and years has been the guy who's arrived. I live in a small street in Paris, in a typical small street in Paris. Is the guy who's arrived in his van, who's parked in the middle of the street. I know he's arrived because everyone's hooting on the horn, boop, beep, beep, they're all parked behind him. He gets out, he's in a bad mood, I'm in a bad mood. He hurls the packet at me, and then he drives off in clouds of exhaust fumes. That's the last mile to me. Maybe you're going to tell us that things are moving on from there.
I feel they're subjective, which is why everyone's going to give an answer. What about you, Amy?
Yeah, I guess last mile for us is final delivery onto our customers. So we've got 4 distribution centres, all in the UK, and that is last mile either onto the UK, or I guess it's still last mile even if that product's going to Australia at the moment. But we send all of our products direct to customers, so from the DC in the UK onto our end customer.
Would you say the importance of that chain, the last sort of customer interface, has increased or decreased over the past 4 to 5 years?
Yeah, increased massively. I think customers, the more and more, we're obviously pure play online, but the more and more customers shopping online, they're comparing what Boohoo's offering to different retailers that they're working with. And yeah, I guess more and more people want to have a fantastic delivery experience when they're receiving that parcel. So,
excellent.
Yeah.
Dear sponsor, Sebastian, how about you?
Yeah, I think Adam's kind of and Amy's kind of cleared up kind of the kind of last mile. I think one thing that a lot of retailers forget when they're trying to source their last mile is we're actually the Doorstep Theatre for the consumer. So you might be selling a solution, you might be selling a sustainable product, but the last mile is your theatre, especially when you talk about e-commerce. So I think for me, the last mile is, whether it's in a diesel van or as we do on a bicycle or on foot, but it's actually that experience that the consumer's actually having at the doorstep. So that part to me is where I think a lot of people forget when they integrate with delivery solutions, that how do you make sure that theatre is correct? How do you make sure your brand is represented in the right way? And that is the last mile when you haven't got a bricks and mortar store providing that service in store.
Yep. Personal reflection, I think last mile for us and our family, early lockdown, had a baby. I think we're averaging 2 deliveries per day over the course of the last year and a half, probably at least 1 to 2 returns every 3 days. Not to sound like a massively consumer household, but the difference in driver attitude and how you perceive them as a customer was actually quite drastic. Not to throw Hermes under a bus, but they're normally a miserable bunch of sods. On the other end of the spectrum, you've got Ocado that tend to be well compensated, happy to enter your home, etc. Pick up your plastic bags, and then there's everyone in between, where you end up you kind of build a relationship with these people because they're typically running a route. Okay, cool.
And just on that, I think, just to jump in, Darko, is that element of that doorstep, and how do you ensure that you might have 2 deliveries a day, 3 deliveries a day, but how do you actually make that sustainable? Like, there's a lot of conversation about consolidation for that final mile, last mile, because how do you make that sustainable? Having 3 people turn up your door isn't sustainable as just a human trying to work from home. Like, you're trying to do your job, 3 people turn up, differently hours. How do you make that a opportunity sustainable for yourself individually?
Yep. Fantastic. And in terms of that sustainability element, we'll talk about the treatment of drivers and remuneration as a separate but related issue, but purely in terms of the transportation value chain. How much emissions can you offset using more ethical means of delivery?
Again, obviously, Urbit, we don't offset any of our, because we don't produce any emissions on the actual final mile. There's no true fact of being zero emissions because our lithium batteries come from somewhere, and our tyres get disposed of at some point. So it's not, you can't exactly say zero emissions fully. But for us, it's, we don't offset because most of all our deliveries are on walkers or on push bike or electrically powered cargo bikes. So we are not producing any emissions on the actual delivery. And so that point for us is we're not producing emissions to offset.
Okay. And when you're speaking with retailers, what level of importance do they attribute to that low emission or no emission compared to some of the other options in the market?
Again, it's a good question because I think you have a lot of retailers who want to be sustainable, ethical, but then it comes to the price point. So it's like, how do you find the right price point for a retailer? So the conversation isn't so much about how much emissions are we doing, but actually, how do I get a good service at a low price? And it goes back to that consumer convenience, price, and sustainability. So you want convenience, you normally have to pay more for it. You want sustainability, you have to pay more for it. But if you're offering, and which I tackle a lot of retailers on, is when you offer a free delivery, as a consumer, do you realise you're getting something for free, but actually it's not for free, and that person doing the delivery is actually, are they getting paid correctly? And a bit like you said, we'll talk about that in a little while about how we pay our team. But for me, there's that bigger piece with the retailers of how do you educate the consumer on being sustainable and ethical, and are they willing to pay the extra as a consumer? And they are starting to, and I know that a lot of the retailers are now starting to offer in the basket the option of free delivery or sustainable delivery at a higher price. And I think that's the only way you can actually push the consumer to realise that there is the options, but it does cost a little bit more.
Fantastic. Amy, what about in your own client base and why you're using Urbit?
Yeah, I mean, we're looking at onboarding Urbit at the moment, so it's something that's definitely interesting for us at Boohoo. And I guess looking at Boohoo, we've got 13 brands now, so really different customers, from sort of Pretty Little Thing, who might be a 17-year-old young lady, through to Karen Millen, who are going to be spending sort of £200-300 on that order potentially. But it's really about just giving them choice. And I guess back to what Sebastian was saying there, we are looking at adding options which are potentially going to cost slightly more for the consumer, but giving them that option and giving them an ethical choice to how their delivery is being made. On the point of sort of multiple free deliveries, it is something that Boohoo uses as a marketing technique. And we also have, I guess, 1 year premium services, which again, something that we need to have a look at how that goes hand in hand with a service like Urbit. If a customer's paid £10 and are going to be using that service weekly to get their deliveries. But yeah, it's all about giving them choice for me and opening that up as a delivery option.
Have you done any research within your own existing customer base, sort of likely customer profile for an Urbit style service?
Not specifically on the transport element, but more on sort of sustainability in general. And it's something that definitely on some of our newer brands, so Caramillan, Coast, Oasis Warehouse, them customers are telling us that they want their product to be sustainable and they want that whole journey to be sustainable. So that's where I see Urbit as being quite an exciting option at delivery. When they get to that point, check out, see Urbit, look at how that's going to be delivered, and then see that experience through.
So do you see potentially high basket values, high value customers using and not minding paying more for delivery, or do you think you're going to see segments throughout the customer base?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if there's a direct correlation between cost of the basket and how much they're going to pay or be willing to pay for their delivery service, but something that we do see, we're looking at introducing same day, and that does seem to be more of a priority for customers that are shopping with our more expensive brands. And that's where we see it, I guess, sort of going in tandem with an option like Urbit.
You're going to charge them £8 to £10 for delivery, or 10 to 12 euro.
Potentially a little bit more,
if they're
depending on the same day, but yeah.
But if they're buying, if the basket's, £250, relatively speaking, it's not going to be a jab in the eye compared to a Friday dress.
Yeah.
That's £25, and then they have to, okay, I understand.
Yeah.
Adam?
Well, I think that what Sebastian was saying about pricing in the cost of sustainable delivery is very interesting, because I mean, essentially, I know that when I go in, if I can, the choice between two products, one's £10, one's £12. I mean, even if the one that's £12 says, well, we're sustainable, probably I'm going to choose the £10 one. But if I'm going to but if it's there and I can make a choice, you pay £2 extra and you're going to get it with someone riding a bicycle rather than that guy in the van with the diesel fumes, then I might well do it. I think that's certainly something that could appeal to some consumers. I mean me for sure. But of course, I can't help drawing the parallel with the current increase in energy prices. I mean, we've heard so much about the need to reduce energy to reduce carbon emissions, but at the moment energy prices are going up. And how are governments responding? They're responding by capping energy prices everywhere, in France, in Spain, and everywhere, because at the end of the day, they know, and I'm sure that it's the same in business. It's very difficult to resist the pound in the pocket, really. I'm sure that's. I mean, there are some people, maybe high-end consumers, for whom sustainability is going to be the deciding factor. But I would imagine that for a lot, it's more about price, really.
Interesting. So, e-com booming, probably two fastest growing supply chain segments are cross-border commerce. So as new markets get opened up, and definitely last mile or same day delivery. So according to certain statistics, we're talking about 44 billion across Europe just for the last mile piece. It's growing at a massive rate alongside e-commerce. So there's plenty of space for new players. What do you see as sort of the main developments in the vertical over the course of the next 4 or 5 years, Sebastian?
I think, like you said, there's obviously a lot of players in the final mile market, and I think we've got our competition here as well. But at the same point, we actually do talk to our competition. I think there is a market there where it's such a growth market that there's so many segments to it. You've got your on-demand food, for example. You've got your on-demand groceries now. But what about your on-demand clothing and your beauty products? And we know that Boots have started to do on-demand cosmetics. So it's in 3 to 5 years. I think we're all going to be so reliant on demand that there is a big market there for more than just Urbit. And the growth is there for us and our competitors. It's just on what is it the model you want? Is it a B Corp? So you might be a B Corp retailer. Do you want to keep pushing through that B Corp opportunity, or build on the ethical, or is it you want something faster? You want something quicker, and you don't mind it's going to be on a motorbike that isn't zero emission. So how do you make sure that there is the model for every kind of consumer? And like I said, I think the consolidation piece over time, I think, we talk about ULEZ in the UK, and I know that in Paris they're talking about their emission zones, etc. Is how do you actually come to an opportunity to consolidate and then go into the city with one delivery per household rather than, like you said, 2 or 3. So I think there's an opportunity there as well.
Excellent, thank you. And Amy, from a retail perspective, do you think that the point-to-point or same-day delivery services? I mean, you run single warehouses and it's run quite as a central distribution type of system. But do you think offering same-day delivery services, sustainable or not, is going to be a big point of differentiation for a brand like Boohoo in the near future?
Yeah, I mean, same day is definitely something that we're being asked about more and more. We've seen a shift towards next day delivery. So if we look back 2 years ago, next day was something that wasn't relied upon definitely as much as it is now. And even sort of looking at, we have a service with DPD, which is a time delivery. That's become more and more popular. So not only do they want it on a Saturday, our customer wants it between 9 and 10 on a Saturday morning. So yeah, same day is definitely something that is going to be I think more and more popular for our consumers. And yeah, from a sustainability perspective, I think it's just an added benefit. If that's something we can add on top of that as a service, and sort of linking back to the customer service perspective that we were adding to, and Adam's experience of the Hermes driver, potentially. Sorry to keep name dropping Hermes. Bad customer experience.
They do have a bad name. That's my fault.
They're not all bad.
I'm going to get sued. That's okay. They've got nothing to take. Okay, so Adam.
But yeah, it's a great customer experience to have, a driver that you potentially have had a repeat delivery with, and they're coming in a way that is better than a diesel powered vehicle.
So Adam, you said you live in Paris.
Yeah, I actually had a question about that, which was, I don't know if you've got the answer, is how much does the very fast delivery contribute to carbon footprint, as opposed to saying, slightly slower delivery in a few days? I can imagine that it might make a difference. I don't know if that's an issue that anyone's addressed yet.
I think, well, you and I sort of touched on it yesterday in prep for this. One of the advantages that same-day couriers have is the ability to actually collect items from local sources of inventory, like an in-store example. Do you want to talk around that? So ship from store facilitation?
Yeah, so one of the offerings, obviously, Urbit does is ship from store, and it's that parcel journey. So we can go direct from A to B, so we can go from store straight to consumer. The other service we offer is we can collect at 4 p.m. in the afternoon, deliver between 6 and 10 that evening, as well as our kind of next day offering. I think the area that always interests me is when you talk from the ship from store model, or you perceive that the shop down the road is going to deliver to you. So you've walked down your high street, you've gone, I want a product from that store. You go online, and you don't realise that maybe you're in Brighton in the south coast of England. You don't realise that actually your product may be coming from a DC that's just outside Brighton, but it's going to go all the way up to the Midlands in the UK, go across to a carrier, come all the way back down to a hub, you go back into your home. So that journey of that parcel is so long that the consumer may not realise that even though they've passed that store on the high street, their product isn't going there. So Urbit's trying to help deliver that opportunity with the bricks and mortar stores on how do you do direct from store, and making sure the consumer realises it's coming direct from store and not going on a long journey.
Yeah, I mean, speaking with my business partner who's got international consolidation experience, there's a couple of US carriers. So if you use an example of a shipment going from New York to Philly, say for example, so it's like a 3-hour journey. Often they have to go through 7 sets of depots, including the central depot or wherever that may be for this particular delivery company. So 7 sets of flights before they actually arrive at the end customer, which is hugely inefficient. So do you think that your more typical last mile couriers, your DC to customer models are broken? And I guess what can an Urbit style model offer to address that inefficiency?
Yeah, like I said, it's educating obviously the retailers as well as the consumers on that journey, on how do you order a product from the store and know where it's going to go, what the journey is for that, and how many touch points there are. As we say in logistics, every time you touch something, it costs money. So when you put that into this perspective of being sustainable, every time you move something, it's going to cause some sort of emission or cause to the environment. So how do you reduce that? And what we do with our next day service that we offer our clients is we do direct from their DC direct into our hub. So we're not going via a Midlands distribution centre in the UK or in France. We actually go direct to our hub, and then we can deliver it straight out. So we're not sending a parcel on a journey up and around the country just to get to that final consumer.
Okay, that's clear. We've sort of talked about investment in a sustainable style of delivery, whether it's a consumer driving demand or, not to be cynical, potentially greenwashing and box ticking exercise. Stimulated debate around where the demand is actually stemming from.
Around the greenwashing?
No, not the greenwashing. Sustainable last mile delivery.
Where's the demand coming from? I think since, especially with COVID and lockdown, everyone started talking about how to be more sustainable. I think even in London, we suddenly saw less airplanes in the sky, and people going, "Well, wow, look, less pollution." So how that's suddenly pushed the demand on sustainability and about emissions. I think the consumer is starting to demand that. I think it comes to that price point again. Is the consumer willing to pay? And that's where I think it becomes the question on how to educate about why it's more important to be about the emissions and sustainability. And I think we talked about greenwashing in the 2000s. I think now we're starting to realise that brands like Urbit and our competitors are actually truly trying to provide a zero emissions. We're not trying to offset. We actually are looking to be zero emissions on that final mile.
Okay. Amy?
Yeah, again, I think for Boohoo, it does go back to choice. So it's around giving customers that do potentially want to make sure that option is available to them. Back to the price point as well, I think unless we are offering it on par with our other services, it's maybe not something that all of our customers would necessarily be willing to pay any more for. But it's just having that option available, and for us as well, being able to offer our customers something that is a sustainable option for them.
Okay, excellent. Adam?
Yeah, obviously, greenwashing is, obviously it is an issue. Everybody wants to talk about the environment now. Everybody wants to be green. Are they really? When Sebastian talks about bicyclists bringing the goods from the shop on a bicycle, well, that's pretty good to me. That goes beyond greenwashing. That's green. But certainly, I think there is a lot of cynicism amongst consumers, amongst people I know. Certainly, are they just talking about the environment, or are they really doing something? And I think for probably the last few years, it's been enough just to talk about the environment very often and put a little green sticker on your box. My feeling is that the younger generations, these are people slightly younger than me, probably not going to accept that anymore, and are going to want something a bit more real. And as Sebastian said, something that you can prove that it is, that it's more than just a green sticker on a box.
As evidenced by members of our royal family travelling to a green event, or like a green conference on a private jet?
Yeah, exactly.
For example, yeah, I think reactions to those sort of things will get disproportionate.
Yeah, I think there are quite a few French politicians as well flying around to green conferences on jets in very big cars with about 6 police vehicles following them.
Yeah. The green element aside, purely in terms of human treatment, these are people for now driving these vehicles. Some of the other companies out there may change that, but certainly in terms of treatment of that human being, tendency will be behaviour may be better. You may get a better quality candidate, someone that can represent the brand in a slightly more smiley and engaging sort of way. That human side of what Urbit does. What do you think makes a big difference in terms of the attitude or quality of the driver that you managed to retain?
Yeah, I think just to finalise on the sustainability part and to lead into that is obviously we're B Corp certified. So again, if you're not sure what B Corp is, I can go into detail on that in a minute. But so the sustainable part does give us that audited service on sustainability, but also the ethical part. So our business is as a B Corp, and we pay fairly. We employ our riders. We also have them on a workers' contract, so they have the choice. It's ensuring that they're paid way above minimum wage. And as we talked about some of the cheaper options on logistics and parcel deliveries, at Urbit, the focus is on making sure the couriers are not forced to do lots of deliveries per hour. To go back to the doorstep opportunity, they're saying, you need to hit a certain, obviously, KPI per hour to make sure that we can pay fairly, but at the same point, we're not trying to push them to be rushing around trying to get so many deliveries done per hour. So that's how we're ethically as well. Like I said, in London, we're averaging about £14 an hour for our couriers in that sense. So well above the London living wage in that sense. So it's ensuring that we always monitor that and across all our business about ethical and how do we give back. So in our office and with the team on the couriers, it's about being diverse and in that sense as well. So we're an equal business. And again, like I said, with being an impact business, we do make profit. We're not a charity, but we actually give back in more ways than just the B Corp requires us to.
Excellent. Thank you very much. We'll go one more general discussion point around what the future looks like. So, are we going to be teleporting product to ourselves? Are we going to go back to Victorian style apothecaries? What's your views as related to retail, e-commerce, and delivery?
Yeah, I think it's going to be going like multi-module. I think like modal in the sense of consolidation, really urban deliveries. So whether it's a ship from store or micro fulfillment in city centres, and providing that solution within a city centre and being true urban to ensure that you've got one truck coming in potentially that's gas fueled to come in and deliver multiple brands into a hub. And fulfillment centre in a city centre, and then deliver it out. So it becomes a final mile literally in the city centre and being true urban in that sense. And like I said, working with partners to consolidate and ensuring that a consumer is not having 10 deliveries per day as we go more and more down the e-commerce line of deliveries. Okay, thank you. Amy?
Yeah. Without saying it again, back to choice. So we want our customers to be able to order where they want, when they want, and have it delivered I guess how they want it to be. So we're seeing more and more, particularly in city centres. If we look at London, Manchester, people wanting deliveries to places that aren't typically their home address. So we've partnered with What Free Words as well, which has been another sort of expansion in what we offer in terms of how we're opening up, I guess, different areas for people to receive deliveries. But yeah, back to the sort of ways that Urbit deliver, we want people to be able to have as much choice as possible and be able to pick when and where they want them deliveries to happen.
So you're not a futurist. You're hedging your bets. You don't necessarily believe that we're going to be teleporting parcels to
not on the moment.
Ourselves? No?
Be nice, but no.
Hedge your bets. That's a good answer. Adam.
Well, as a journalist, I know it's difficult enough to say what's going on today, let alone tomorrow, and especially over the last couple of years, where anyone had asked us what in 2019, what 2020 would be like, I think we would have got it wrong. There's a question for specialists. I mean, the observation I can say is that people are increasingly at home. They're at home for work. More and more, and in France, I think in the UK, not only are they at home, but they're moving home as well. They're moving into the countryside to work from the countryside. I know people who have moved from Britain to work from France. I mean, they're carrying on the same jobs, but they're actually in Brittany now. So I suppose that we're looking at a shift of lifestyles that, I mean, if that continues, that's going to affect all sectors and people going out less and people going to be wanting deliveries at home more. So I imagine that the next few years are going to see that continuing with a really fundamental sociological change on how much we go out, how much we stay at home, where we go. And I'm sure that logistics is going to be fitting into that and fitting around that more and more.
Right place, right time, and lots of interesting minds in the room to solve that existential problem. Maybe not existential, but future problem. All right, we've got about 5 minutes. We'll hand over to the audience. We've got time for one or two questions. Any brave souls out there want to put your hand up and ask her? Oh, almost, no? I'll buy you a coffee outside. There you go.
What about the restrictions you have in terms of heavy and bulkiness when you deliver via bicycles? So we need to repeat the question because it's being broadcast as well. So the question was around were there's restrictions around the bulkiness of the product. And I think that comes down to what we're doing about partnerships in the final mile logistics is, we are focused on our pedal power and foot power in that sense. And yes, it does cause restrictions with some elements. If something's very large, obviously it won't fit in a cargo bike.
So yeah, it has to be partnered with. So what we do at the moment is we do have restrictions on the size and the weight that we can carry. But over time, the solutions will come. And going back to Amy's point, it's about that choice and convenience. So at the moment, the choice may be at the checkout that something's too large or too heavy. You can't choose an Urbit solution. Over time, we will get there. But I think for now, that goes into a different opportunity for a different carrier in that sense.
But how much is this restriction so far?
How much is the restrictions? Again, it depends because we do it by client basis. So our cubic meters of our current largest bikes is about 2 cubic meters. Again, so but if you're talking about a walker, they're not going to be able to carry 20 kilos. So that's limited to about 5 kilos in a backpack. So it depends on the mode that the client wants and the weights of the clients. So again, if you're talking about Boohoo with their apparel, then yeah.
I'm really happy you didn't say as much as they could possibly carry. Okay. We've got time for one more question in the back.
Do you believe the customers see the value of having a person managing the bike instead of a machine? So not the green part yet, but the human part of all these operations. Do you see that the customers see the difference? Or it's green, it's enough to be sustainable from let's say environmental way of view.
So the question is related to use of humans rather than robots?
Yeah.
And perception around that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, again, I think it goes back to that multi solution. I think there is a place for the automated robots. I think it hasn't quite taken off yet, and I think again when you come to smaller towns, I think that's a great opportunity. I think I always joke about the drone solution or the robots. Is if I was sitting in a farm and a drone went over, if I was a teenager again, I'd probably shoot it down just for the fun of it. But what is the solution you're trying to achieve? So I think when you talk about the robots, I think there is definitely an opportunity there. For us, it's all about the human element. It's we offer a service where we can take away the packaging. Again, a robot may offer that in the sense of you open the box, take your parcel out, unwrap it, and put it back in. But there's no conversation. And I think when I go back to what I was saying at the beginning, which is about the Doorstep Theatre, it's how do you provide the theatre? If you want to have your high brand and you want to have our courier stay there for 15 minutes while you try everything on and then return the product there and then, we can do that. I think that's the opportunity that the human element gives. But yeah, there's definitely an opportunity there for robots, I'm sure. Have you done that at all with Boohoo at all? Thought about that?
Not just yet. We've not got through to piloting drones or anything like that. But yeah, again, I guess it's a mix of different consumers. So if I think to some of our brands like Boohoo, the customer just wants it quick. That's the key thing for them. They want it quick and they want it on time and they want it exactly when they order it, not 20 minutes after because they're going out. They want it at the time that they've specified. And then back to what Sebastian was saying just then, we've also got sort of insight coming through that customers on brands like Caramillan and Coast, these more sort of tailored where they want somebody that is potentially going to deliver that item to them that's already been pressed, and it's in a way, as Sebastian was experienced, that really gives them a bit of an experience and delivers that through their doorstep.
There you go. Excellent. Adam, closing comment?
We're talking about human contact. In fact, since COVID in Paris, there was very little human contact because they just put the boxes in the lift, and we live on the 5th floor. And they press the 5th floor. We pick them up. So the only contact we have is on the on the phone with them.
You're sounding like a misanthropist. Like you almost prefer not to have human interaction. That's probably based on your previous experiences with your delivery drivers.
Okay, I erased the last comment. Cut.
Great. Thank you very much. That was a great panel. We've run out of time, unfortunately. So thank you all for attending the session. There's another few coming up. Look forward to seeing you soon. Thank you very much to Sebastian, Amy, and Adam for joining us, and the audience as well. Thank you.